All right, fellas, I'm excited for this conversation today. I'm grateful that you're here. My guest is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi. He is a health and weight loss expert and the founder of the Fit Father Project and also the Fit Mother Project. These are leading health and weight loss programs for busy men and women over 40. I'm in that category. Dr. Balduzzi holds dual degrees in nutrition and neuroscience from the University of Pennsylvania, a doctorate in naturopathic medicine, and is a former national champion bodybuilder. Dr. Balduzzi is most proud of the fact that he's helped over 60,000 families in over 100 countries lose weight and get healthy through the Fit Father and Fit Mother programs. I'm thrilled about this conversation because, number of reasons. First, we are in our vibrant health pillar focus right now within Front Row Dad. So throughout the course of a year, we have 6 pillars that we focus on, 2 months in every pillar, and we take the entire journey all year long. And right now we're talking about what it means to have vibrant health for ourselves, for our families. And there's no better person for me to be talking with today than this incredible man, who I also have to give a shout out to Qasim, right? He's the one that put us in touch. One of my favorite people in the world. Qasim has brought so much energy and value to the Front Row Dad community. One of our members who, when you just ask around about Qasim, everybody's like, I love Qasim, man. I love how he shows up for people. And so anytime he introduces me to somebody, I'm paying attention. Brother, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And I'm excited about this dive. So how are you feeling today, man? Let's just start there, like pulse check. How's your heart? How's your vibe? Where are you today?
I mean, in full transparency, like right now in this moment, like so good. Like I'm pumped up. It's probably the energy in the frame that you create. I've been looking forward to connecting with you and creating in this way. And then on the physical side, as many dads know, we've just had something run through the house. You know, daughter brought something home, whole family has sniffles. So I'm on the tail end of that, but still feeling quite good overall.
Yeah. Do you get sick often?
Very rarely. I would say, a couple times a year. And it's usually just respiratory, nasal, mucus stuff, but it has humbled me and taught me too, especially over the last few years with a lot of stuff going around and whatnot, that if you do the right things, you become a lot less likely to get sick. But there's certain times where, I do still even get sick, and like, that's cool. Like, it's just part of the game.
Yeah.
And you can support it, but it's just, you must accept it too,
Yeah, I think about the times when I've gone through seasons where I got sick often, and then those that I haven't. I think the number one thing is the times that I was drinking alcohol and the times I wasn't. Like, alcohol is just the killer for my immune system. Like,
right. Anything that impacts your circadian rhythm, right? Yeah, this cycle of restoration that our immune system like hinges upon. Yeah. Anything that kind of weakens our sense of vital force. We all have a sense of like how much zest and energy we have. And that's tied to what we can call the tone of the nervous system, whether we're in this like relaxed, parasympathetic, strong, well-rested, or if we're pretty keyed up, adrenaline's high, cortisol's high. Well, those things are immunosuppressants. So it's not surprised, like as all dads focused on health and fitness, we can talk about like how to change body comp, but we're also modulating this nervous system too. And our performance 100%. Is dictated based on that, right?
Yeah. How much of the day, I'm already derailing from where I wanted to take this initially, but this is how it goes, man. How much of the day do you think that you're in fight or flight, right? That you're amped up, and how much are you in this rest and digest? Like, when is your parasympathetic and your sympathetic nervous systems triggered? Do you have a gauge on
you
that?
Asking
like,
for me specifically, or
yeah, for
physiology?
You.
Okay.
For you.
For me specifically. And I mean, and I want to preface this is off of like a body of like 10 to 20 years of focus on this stuff. Yeah. I'm probably like 95% parasympathetic, 5% sympathetic. But I think that's not necessarily just because I take good care of my body and I know the things to do. I think it's really because I've had a deep practice with like meditation. I'm super connected to my spirituality and to God right now, and my understanding of that. And I've learned to retrain my mind and maybe challenge some thoughts that arise in the ego. And I just like don't have the patterns that I used to. If you would ask me like 10 years ago, I would probably say 75-25, like still good, but I would be a lot more reactionary. But I think it's more of a mental and spiritual improvement that's led to me saying this is the state I'm in than necessarily physical components. I was massively invested in my physical health and performance when I was a competitive bodybuilder. But I was also probably maybe in fight or flight 30-40% of the time at that time, right? So,
well, let me frame this conversation out a little bit for people listening, because who knows where it's going to go, guys. You know how I'm just always in the moment. I'm in flow here, but I want to talk about why health. Like, I want to go back up and create the story and the context for the men who are just learning about you and your work. And I also recognize that millions of people know about you and your work. So it's evident by how many people you've impacted through the Fit Father Project and now the Fit Mother Project. I want to get into health topics as it relates to men over 40, specifically around building muscle and losing fat.
Okay.
I want to talk about how you think about health as it relates to your family, your daughter. And then I want to talk about how you've grown this epic business while keeping, family first. So that's how I'm looking at it. We'll see if we get past the first couple of questions in the rabbit hole that we travel down. But I just wanted to let people know where we could be heading in this conversation. So let's lay down the foundation with why health. Tell us how you got into this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll talk about why my health, and I think it might be illuminating for why health in general. Growing up, I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't really care about health and fitness. Like, I love playing basketball, being outside. I was born in upstate New York. I grew up in Toronto, Canada, a mix of those two places. My dad had a job that transferred us up there. And now I live in Scottsdale, AZ. I was kind of, I'll say now, blessed with a very interesting circumstance when I was young, is that my dad got very sick. He just busted his ass to put food on the table, worked himself to the bone, immune system got shot. He ended up getting cancer, brain cancer. And over the course of like 6 years, I saw him completely physically deteriorate. When I was around 3, he had his first seizure where he fell down, and it was like terrifying to see your dad, this man you look up to as a beacon of strength, just look so helpless. And we took him to the hospital, brain scans, found out he had brain cancer. And so he underwent full brain surgery, right? They cut his skull open. And this was around, like, let's just say 30 years ago. So like, we've come a long way with these kinds of things. So it was like kind of gruesome. Shave his head, cut his brain open, remove a big portion of his brain. He lost control of the left side of his body. And that's the dad I grew up with. I saw him in this state of one, weakness and debility, and how foundational that was to everything he wanted to do. But 2, also, like, on the flip side, strength and the ability to persevere in spite of your circumstances. He impressed me in many different ways. Fast forward, cancer comes back. He tries to do everything he can. And, now when I speak to my mom these days about the situation, like, my dad didn't want to die. He really didn't. He was very scared in the end times. And he ended up dying right before my 10th birthday. We moved us down to Scottsdale, Arizona, basically to set my mom, my little brother, and I up to have a good life. And he passed away around June, and my birthday's in July. And it was really amazing. I'll just get into the quick details. The night my dad died, we just moved from Canada to Scottsdale, Arizona. I did not want to be there. I had friends back in Canada. I was, 9, 10 years old, starting to get a little personality on myself. And I was angry, seeing all the things that happened to my dad. And I went down to the local playground to play basketball. And I kind of got into a scuff with some kids. I got pushed and fell down, and I snapped my arm, like bad break, like arm looks like a V. And then I went to the hospital to have emergency surgery. And that was the night my dad died. So that was like a perfect storm. I mean, imagine being my mom, taking care of my little brother, broken arm. And the reason, I think my mom said, my dad was still alive at the time when I was having surgery, but she whispered in his ear, "Peter, I want you in that hospital room with Anthony tonight. If you need to go now." And that's when my dad let go. And that moment, as you can imagine, like, totally destabilized our family, and I was at a certain age where I had a lot of questions. I had a sense of self. I had a relationship with what I considered to be God, and everything just got shifted around. But the blessing was that my mom did give me a pair of my dad's old dumbbells for my birthday, and I started to train with them. Not that I knew what I was doing, but, some curls, some push-ups, and I kept them under my bed. I had a little Walkman that I would put music on and listen to that at night. And I was channeling all this raw emotion I had. And I didn't realize it at the time, but into something productive. I was starting to train. And in my mind, at least, if I can get strong, cancer wouldn't affect me. And I could be there to help my little brother and my mom out. So in a way, I kind of had this like a vision quest, or an opening moment, very profound one early in my life, that set me on a trajectory of getting more serious about my life. And also, like, I found out that when I was running down the neighborhood block and my lungs were burning, I wasn't feeling sad. I was feeling like a mix of invigorated and pushing myself to the edge. And as I continued to do this and started to change the foods I ate, I found that tangible inputs gave me tangible outputs. And in my young mind, that was a sense of control. I get to start to rebuild a sense of self and life around that. And I guess I fast forward into high school. Like, I went to an all boys Catholic school, and there's no girls around. So you're either going to play some sports, lift some weights, excel at school, do whatever. And like, I found that because I've been training for a couple of years up to that point, like, I had an aptitude. But it was a moment where I just was able to knock out push-ups like way more than other kids. And I'm like, there's something here. And I wanted to dive deeper into that. I felt this calling to build up the body, which led me into personal training, eventually competing in bodybuilding, and into medical school. And I think in medical school, I saw the exact same scenario that I witnessed happen to my dad over and over. It wasn't always cancer, but it was the same combination of factors. You have a busy life. Health is not always straight up priority for you. And then some shit hits the fan, because life sometimes happens like that. And then cracks start to happen. And when you're in midlife and you're juggling all these things, it can be really devastating when your health's pulled out from under you. And I also saw the fact that in today's day and age, we can look around, like over half of people are probably diagnosable as obese at this point. The food is crap. We're all very stressed. We're addicted to phones. There's a lot of environmental factors that make it easy to backslide into the problems that most men are facing now. And it gave me a lot of time over these years to reflect on why this happens. And I think one of them is that men believe the lie that our health is something compartmentalized and different from the other areas of our lives. I think maybe if you have conversations with the guys, you consider health a pillar, right? It's a pillar. Like finances would be a pillar, contribution would be a pillar, your spirituality, your connection, all these things are pillars. And that's one way to think of it. And I think it's super valid because it gives you an ability to focus on this, but it's really not true. Because what's true about our experience is that our bodies, we have these body vehicles that are enlightened with consciousness that we can then go to create with. And the quality of this body influences the quality of our mind and our energy. And that is the background of everything we do. We bring our bodies, we bring our minds and our emotions, and the foods that we eat and how we move and how we're exposed to light changes our neurochemistry. So it's like this body vehicle is at the basis of all our experience. And if we think of it as something as separate, that means it's going to need to find separate time on the calendar. That means it's going to be separate than all the things we're doing. When we start to break that myth and see that it's an interwoven web into the very fabric of our lives, it is interwoven into every value that we care about. Our ability to be a good parent, how is that connected to your health? Reflect on that. How is your health connected to your ability to make more money, to have the lasting power to do what you want to do with your deep mission here, in this life experience? So I think collapsing that distinction really helps, because now you're not saying, I don't have the time to exercise. You can start to create a plan where this is just a part of your flow. And now, easier said than done. And as they often say, I don't exactly like the aphorism, but the devil's in the details. And so you want to be able to create a sustainable routine with your health that integrates with your business and your family. And you need to make some changes mentally and physically with habits to make it sustainable. That's what we help guys do. And I guess my why is because, what I saw with my dad, and the blessing I see on the other side is the 40 is not old. 50 is no longer old. In great health today with the right habits, you could literally be at the peak of your life in your 60s. And now physically, even, maybe physically we do have some decline, and that's part of the life that we must accept. Joints hurt, skin sags, little damage here and there from old injuries. Okay, fine. But we know so much about this machine now that we can really turn back the clock, totally optimize. I mean, I've seen guys in their 50s get six-pack abs if they never had them in their entire lives. Guys that run their first marathons, when never having run a mile since middle school. You can regenerate these bodies, but you got to find a way that makes it sustainable for busy dads. So that's I guess the backstory.
No, I love the backstory. Let's talk about two things here. Let's talk about your routine. But let's also talk about this connection between health and spirituality.
Sure.
I just want to get your take on those. And perhaps the answer is one and the same. It's possible. But talk to us about your specific routine. How do you look at micro workouts or the weaving together of your health throughout your day? And I feel like this touches on a lot of things here, but
I love it.
Where you want.
Are you open to me taking spirituality first? Because it kind of sits on the philosophical, and then we go to the routine.
Absolutely, man. Let's go.
All right. So spirituality is a big word, and I think it means a lot of things to a lot of different people.
Yeah.
We make this distinction between body, mind, and spirit. Body, this kind of for lack of a better word, this meat suit, the organs, the physicality of us. Mind, which may be the sphere of our thoughts and our emotions and the quality of our thinking, I guess, and our feeling. And then spirit seems, at least to me, to have this connection with purpose and alignment. Alignment might even be the word that comes up the most. And I think the way health relates to spirituality is that I think the human essence, our being we have this drive to want to be expansive. We want to expand to the fullest potential. And I think this is natural law, the seed in it, the tiny seed that will grow into a giant oak tree has that potential inside of it. And with the right inputs, the sunshine, the soil, the right space, it can flourish into something great. We have this call to be expansive. And when we feel that there is some kind of deficit or lack of congruency with what we're creating in one area of life, but not the other, we feel like a lack of integration. We feel like there's something missing. And health, the word health comes from, I think, Latin or Greek, whatever. Wholeness is what it means. It means wholeness, which is another word for integrity, which is like having us be healthy on all these different levels of our being. You could see someone who has an amazing body that could be on a magazine cover that has totally misdirection and has really bad mental self-talk. Like that happens. We see people who have really weak and debilitated bodies that have great family connections and happiness and lots of success in other areas. And I think guys that are here, specifically in this community, know that they want a well-rounded, successful life, not necessarily balanced, whatever that means, but they want in all these areas. And as we talked about, health is so foundational that if I made your body sick and inflamed, you're not going to feel as close to in your prayer. Your mind is going to be far more agitated. Your neurochemicals are going to be far depressed. And when you're in deep prayer, or when you have a profound spiritual experience, or when you're feeling the greatest amount of love, that is chemistry changing in your body. Like the way I'll use the word God, because that seems like the word that I will use, that the system is set up and with on certain natural law. Like there is natural law regarding our bodies. We need certain things regarding water, sunshine, movement, certain foods. And when we live in accordance to natural law, I believe we flourish. When we deviate from that, there is a price to be paid. And we're always flirting with that line in many different ways of our lives and looking to course correct. But when we can get even more congruent on the path, like everything starts to be augmented. So I guess it's a mix of natural law. It's a mix of feeling of whole and integrated. And I just know if a guy right here is listening to this and he knows his health's not in check, he knows his life would be better if it was. And it's been on the back of his mind for many years. It's just a matter of like, how do you finally get traction and keep traction?
So on that note of keeping traction, talk to us about your specific routine.
Okay. It's changed a little bit because I have a 1-year-old. So, but like that's the home life has changed a little bit. Here's what I believe is important and what I actually do. When I wake up, the wake up is variable. It depends. I've been working on a later flow lately. So I've been staying up on the computer, sometimes even 11, midnight, but that's not every night, like sometimes in bed at 10, but I'm trying to say that my wake up morning will shift. And I think I have the privilege of that now that my business is a little more established and that I can be a little more flexible in my schedule and I do work at home. When I wake up, let's just say anywhere from 6 to 7 a.m.
Now, real quick on that, by the way, is it based on number of hours? Are you saying, look, at a minimum, I don't care when I go to bed, I'm getting 7?
Yeah, I'll do like 6 is bare minimum. 7 is good. 7+ is great. And I will be conscious of when I need to increase my sleep later if I'm in some kind of sleep debt. But I will say this, the more you do all the other things in your life, like good nutrition, keeping your nervous system in a more relaxed state, meditation and prayer, your body needs less sleep. Like, and sleep is super important. Don't get me wrong. It's like a foundation of everything. And I don't think you should be skipping on sleep. And I think if you're sleeping only 6, like there's room for improvement for sure. That being said, sleep is a state where the brain is cleaning itself. It's moving through different brainwave states. The body is regenerating. But like if we're doing things during the day too, you can offset that need. So for example, someone who's training really intensely, they're doing CrossFit, they're looking at bodybuilding, they're going to need more sleep because there's more physical repair demands. So sleep is something that needs to be calibrated in relation to the other stresses in your life. I'm aiming for 7 hours typically. And I think it is more restorative, at least in my experience. If you're getting to sleep before midnight, I think you do get better sleep typically in this. As matched up as you can be to the natural circadian rhythm of the sun, which does shift seasonally, is going to be probably what's most biooptimal. Like, right, melatonin signaling increases when the light goes down, and that changes seasonally. So I think what I've noticed as I become more, I guess, like spiritually minded, as well as into health and just experience myself for more years, is that I'll have seasonal shifts. I guarantee in the summer, I'll be getting up more like 5 a.m. when the sun's getting up earlier. It just kind of like rolls a little bit. Now to the morning, the first thing I care about is rehydrating, like within 10 to 30 minutes, maybe even immediately. And what that looks like for me is we take our water quality super seriously at our house. Like we have a really good whole house water filter. It actually structures the water too. I don't know if we need to go down the rabbit hole on that, but water is deep and we don't understand as much about water as like we think we do. H2O, it's way more complicated than that exactly. But I get clean water filtered in some way. I probably wouldn't drink your city tap water if you're currently doing that. And we remineralize our water. So our body for hydration needs these minerals, and they're so overlooked because we have a culture right now that's focused on proteins, fats, carbs, macros, and even vitamins in some instances. But minerals are so fascinating. And I think they're even part of the spiritual discussion. Is like our bodies literally come from this earth in the very sense that our mothers ate food that was grown from the earth, and that soil has metals in it, calcium, magnesium, all these different things, and they get incorporated into our bodies. And we function really well electrically because we are electrical beings with minerals, with more minerals. So what I do is I have some trace mineral drops. There's many different kinds you could do. Put that in the water, 20 to 32 ounces of water. You can also use some pink Himalayan sea salt, get that down. I would say even up to 32 ounces of water, very, very good. Just gets the body going, can improve energy. And I hold off on doing coffee for a solid hour before I get up if I'm drinking coffee. I'm not a coffee every day guy, but I think this is something I've picked up pretty recently from Andrew Huberman, is that, you know, ADP is one of the things that builds up in the brain. Coffee blocks that, and that gives us a sense of alertness. So you want your body to like clear out ADP in the morning. So I hold off on the coffee. Now, I do not eat immediately. One routine
Hold on real quick. Anthony, go back for a second. The whole house water filtration system. Can you talk about what kind that is?
Yeah, the one I bought is from a company called Greenfield Water Solutions, which you want to talk about a small world. Have you ever heard of this guy named Ben Greenfield?
Yeah.
Like he's a fitness guy. It's his dad owns that company. So he was brought up in this crazy health stuff. Yeah, I didn't really know that. It was his dad or his uncle. It's a family company, but they have a whole house structured water system. There are many things you can get a whole house structured reverse osmosis that will remove all the minerals, makes you add minerals back into your water. That's going to be optimal. So I think your body needs water in the morning. I think it's beneficial to get light activity or your formal workout if that fits your schedule. For me, and sunshine. These are the three. And so for me, what that looks like is I get my dad pouch on, take my shirt off, take my daughter's shirt off because she's young enough that we can roll like this and it's cute. So, and we roll outside with for around anywhere from a 10 to 30 minute walk in the sun. And get the sunshine, get the walk, breathe through my nose. It's connected time. We're playing with rocks. And I'll say one more thing I have been doing recently. This is within a year. This is before I actually go on that walk. I have a cold tub in my garage and I get in for 3 minutes. And I will say, like, of all the things that I've done to optimize, the cold tub is something that absolutely took things to the next level. Like, cold is such a powerful stress for our bodies. We want to maintain core temperature. So it does a lot of cool things to your mood, to your immune system, to just your resilience. And it's kind of like a little bit of a prayer every day, in a sense that, like, despite this being uncomfortable, I'm going to start to stay off by doing hard things that I know are good for me. And I think that kind of like feels like it sets the tone for the day. So
what temperature is the water?
Currently, like, my buddy actually builds these, so he's pretty cool. It's 39 at the one that I have right now. And I started in the 50s, then the 40s, then the 30s. And at a certain point, like, you're getting in a cold tub. It's like, I don't know how much of a difference it is. If you get past the first minute, like, you're in good shape. So, but I find that impactful. And then the sunshine too, when possible, in the eyes, on the skin. Sun is one of those amazing things. It's like, it's the life giver on this planet, right? Everything's connected to the cycle of this sun. And we need a certain amount of it, not too much, but like, the cool thing that people don't realize is that, like, you get sunshine directly into your eyes in the morning. Like, I wear contacts, but I keep glasses on to make sure that I'm getting the good sunshine. Like, it hits an area of your brain that actually creates serotonin, which is like what we give people when they want to, like, are depressed, right? We give them serotonin increasing drugs of many different kinds. So you get serotonin boost, and later in the day, that serotonin is converted to melatonin through the pineal gland, and that gives us restoration and longevity. So circadian rhythm is at the foundation of good, healthy living. And it starts in the morning. And I think that temperature regulation is a part also to interface with circadian biology as well. So I think the cold and the light is important in the morning with the water.
Yeah. That's cool. You got me thinking and dreaming here about, like, shifting my morning routine with my boys right now, going outside and, like, shooting hoops before we leave for school.
That'd be cool.
Just something to get outside. It hasn't been on my radar recently. I'm trying to dial in a couple other parts of the routine, but I got to believe that would be very, very powerful.
For sure. Light movement too. If you don't have time to exercise, even light movement. So we have arteries and veins, which carry our blood, but we also have a lymphatic system, which carries our immune system, and also all the interstitial fluids. Like, that responds to light movement in the morning. Like, we need it. So even just balancing, getting your boys breathing through their nose in the morning activates this nitric oxide system. Like, man, it's like your own internal pharmacy you can activate in the morning. So I try to do those good things in the morning, and I do them probably with 90% consistency.
We have a mini trampoline in our living room.
Awesome.
And the fact that it's in the center of the living room, it just gets jumped on constantly.
That's so good.
Yeah. And it doesn't look great per se. Like if you were trying to design the best looking living room, you might be like, put that thing away in the closet. But the truth is it needs to be out for it to be used.
Totally.
So yeah. I love all this, man. I want to get to this topic of building muscle and losing fat. I want to get into this because I feel like for me, this is something I'm really focused on right now. And when I looked at your YouTube channel, which by the way, millions and millions of views on some of these videos, this is what was most viewed. So I'm imagining that speaking to your audience, this is what they want, right? Is that safe to assume?
Yeah, of many things, but muscle building is super important. We care about it.
And just for also a little context for you and for our audience, like, so not only am I interested in this personally, and I've never lifted, I never focused on lifting heavy weights in my life ever. I've run ultra marathons. I've played golf. I was, a skimboarder, surfer at the beach, but nothing ever involved lifting heavy weights. And I kind of actually laughed at that. I'm like, who goes to the gym to like pick up and move a weight? Like that sounds like the dumbest way to spend an hour. And now it's part of my routine, and I'm so grateful for it because I'm learning some of the benefits of having muscle and what it does to bone density. We have a guy coming onto a Q&A with our group live, who's a surgeon and also a longevity expert, and he focuses on muscle building. Like that's his whole thing. So I think as a community, we're looking at this more than just the aesthetics of like, will I look better with, but there's, and I say that, and I'm also laughing because I'm like, I want my wife to be like, damn, when I take off my shirt. There's a part of it that's like, I love that. Are you kidding me? I want her to be attracted to that. That's great. But there are so many other reasons why this is important, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about some of the basic fundamentals around how you teach this concept or how you work with men, what they struggle with, what are the resources they have available when it comes to building muscle, losing fat.
Sounds good. All right. Well, first off, I want to plus on a couple more reasons because I think like motivation is at the basis of all these health things. And I think the way to get motivated is to one, have a clear plan, but two, also have deep reasons that connect you to why this is important. So you now understand a little more of the research, like from a standpoint of like longevity. And I think it's safe to say everyone listening to this wants to be around for their family as long as they possibly can be in good function and strength. Like weightlifting is the freaking fountain of youth. Like it activates all of these genetic and epigenetic changes that it repairs our DNA, activates these longevity genes, like these sirtuins and these proteins that help us like live a long time. Your metabolism is largely based off of how much actual movement you do per day, plus how much muscle mass you carry. So when you have more muscle mass, you're able to like stay leaner, which makes you more motivated to like eat healthier. So there's like a lot of positive feedback loops that are involved in this. And let's be honest, like if we look at our parents, aging parents, and maybe if our parents have passed, like the quality of our life is ultimately dictated by how we can move our body in space, how strong and healthy our spine is. Can we get up and out of chairs? Can we push and pull? Can we move this body in this geometric arrangement symmetrically and fluidly? And all of that requires, training. We got to do these things. The body responds to stress, and training is intentional stress that is in a good range where it gives us adaptation, but not too much. And that is, I think, a nice segue into the concept of building muscle, after 40, 50, 60s, is that the stuff that worked in your 20s, you could get away with like way more stuff when your body could just like bounce back. You had a higher recovery capacity. Hormone profiles might have been a little different. We need to have a more intelligent approach to giving proper stimulus with a little more rest in between. And you don't need to slam it at the gym, 6 days per week. Quite frankly, the first phase of our muscle building program called Old School Muscle is 3 full body training sessions per week. And it works incredibly well. So like time doesn't have to be a factor. Like you could get it in under 3 hours a week of training, but you do need a plan. You do need to approach it intelligently. Now I want to say one more thing. If you're a guy right now who needs to lose fat and lose weight, it is more beneficial to do that first before focusing on like really building muscle. And lifting heavy can be a part of losing weight and fat, but the process of actually getting rid of belly fat and leaning up is improving your insulin sensitivity tremendously, which is a huge factor in muscle building. It is also improving your hormone profiles. Fat can convert testosterone to estrogen. It also is lowering your inflammatory markers. Fat, especially visceral fat around the organs, is inflammatory. So it's super cool. But like, I think the order of priority is if you need to, like, if you look at your body composition now, you want to be jacked, but you also have like 30 plus pounds, it's like, get the weight off first. And the good news with weight loss is you can do it so quickly. Like, it takes a long time to build 10 pounds of muscle, but you can lose 10 pounds of weight in 30 days easily, of fat potentially in 30 days, but 45, whatever. So like, you can spend a focused period of time getting leaner, and the body actually does respond better to the calories that you do need to support muscle growth when you're in a leaner state. And a lot of this comes down to insulin sensitivity. We're going to hear so much more about this because many people are focused on longevity. There's a lot of really sharp doctors and people talking about this. And one of the things that we do know is insulin resistance is at the basis of a lot of these degenerative conditions, neurologically degenerative conditions, metabolically degenerative conditions. And that's because we're eating too many carbs. We're eating too much sugar. We're not moving enough. We're disconnected from a lot of different things. So when we can restore insulin sensitivity, the whole system works better, because insulin is actually one of the biggest drivers for muscle building. Downstream of insulin, insulin activates something called mTOR, which increases protein synthesis. Downstream of insulin is also insulin-like growth factors. They interface with growth hormone and lead to positive changes. So we want to be able to stimulate insulin, but not have these like out of control glucose issues and stuff like that. So get lean first. And the process of getting lean, the good news is like, it's all about nutrition. It's 80% about nutrition. So I'll table that because I think we could get into that as its own kind of discussion of like, how do you eat? What do you eat? But like, clean up the diet first is like the number one way. We've had guys lose over 100 pounds, literally zero exercise, just walking and doing stuff like that with good nutrition. Like, you can lose the weight. Now, when it comes to muscle building, like the fundamental is you need to stimulate, and then you need to recover. It's like just the concept, like it's pushing an elevator button, then the elevator comes. Now, the stimulus, I believe, is good for most guys who are not, well, let's just say not on TRT. They're just like not enhanced, basic there. You should hit every major muscle group 1 to 2 times per week. 2 might be optimal. And basically, I think a good way to think about it is total volume per body part, and divide that volume up across training sessions. So a good concept to think about is the idea of effective sets versus junk volume. We've all like seen those like bodybuilding style workouts where you do like 20 sets of chest, right? You do 3 sets on the flat, 3 sets on the incline, some flies, some push-ups, shoulder press, whatever. Like, there's a certain number of sets that are going to really encourage and stimulate muscle growth. And past that, a lot of those you're not getting much additional benefit, but you're getting a pretty deep inroad into your recovery. So what I like to advise guys, especially as you get older, like, you could be sore for a long time. That means you can't train for many days. What I'm suggesting is if the good weekly volume for chest is something like 10 to 15 sets, it's a good idea to break those up into 2 training sessions, perhaps pulsed around 3-4 days afterwards. After you train, you're going to get this muscle protein synthesis effect for 24, 48, 72 hours. As you actually get further along your training career, like, you actually have a shorter window because your body's like kind of more maxed out. If you're a newbie, you get a longer protein synthesis where the body's trying to build new proteins. So you train, pulse every body part with 3 to 4 days apart, I would say is one way to do it. And you need to eat an adequate number of calories. And this is where the trick is. Like, it's important to eat enough calories to support muscle growth, which means you're going to be gaining some fat invariably, a little bit. Like, you're going to be in some surplus. Like, if you really want to track your macros and get into like MyFitnessPal and dial that in, and you're in a 300 calorie surplus and you have that dialed in, that's great. You'll probably minimize fat gain if you can be that specific about it. But I wouldn't be afraid of necessarily eating enough food to support growth, because effectively, if you're under eating on calories, you're not eating as many calories as you're burning per day for your strong training, and you're lifting super heavy, you're basically on a cut, but you're getting like good benefit from getting potentially stronger. But for muscle building specifically, you need to have enough calories, and we can talk about where those calories come from. You need to train a couple times per week of stimulating those muscle groups. The splits that I love for guys over 40 is if you're kind of pressed on time and you're looking for something, full body 3 times per week. So you pick one movement for every major muscle group, a squat into a barbell row, into a press of some kind, dumbbell or bench press, into an overhead press, into curls. Like, that could be the framework. And if you do that like 3 times per week, day on, day off, day on, day off, you're getting a constant little pulse of this muscle building stimulus. You're doing about 4 to 5 working sets per body part every single time. And that is one setup that works incredibly well. but it's not the only one. You could do upper body, lower body splits where you train upper body twice a week, lower body twice a week. You could certainly
Anthony, I want to go, let's talk about that for a second, because I'm going to be selfish here and just say what works for me. And what I think I would like to do is Monday, Wednesday, Friday workouts. Right. And let's say those are full body. So walk me through the detail of, which exercises might I include and how many sets. Like if you were writing the easiest plan that I could jot down in 2 minutes or less, what would it be?
All right. So I'm going to give you like a little more, the easiest plan with some icing on the cake. What I would do is I would train your body 3 times per week for all the reasons we stated. You get 3 pulses per week of good anabolism. And it's also engaging. You can move through the motions. I would also have heavy days and light days throughout the week to help your nervous system. When you're freshest, maybe coming off the weekend, if that's the case for you, I would probably have your heaviest training day, meaning you're training in reps anywhere from 5 to 10 reps on most of the major motions. And depending on what you want to prioritize is where we'll start off with the first exercise that day. So maybe we have a heavy full body day on Monday. On Wednesday, we could either have a full body workout that has a tendency to be a little more upper body focused or a little lower body focused. And then on Friday, we'll do the opposite of that. We'll have another lighter or heavier day, depends on your goals. If you're really looking to push strength or increase your volume, that has a little bit of more of a lower body focus or upper body focus. So to Monday, is there a particular body part or something that you're looking to prioritize and grow?
I don't think so, man. I think full body is most appealing. I mean,
we're going to start off with squats or deadlifts, baby. Squats or deadlifts of many different varieties. What I like to do and what we did in the programming for Old School Muscle, our muscle building program for guys over 40, is we train in 4-week blocks where you're using the same exercises for 4 weeks, which is just enough time to give you like good amount to progress on that exercise. Quite frankly, you could use the same exercise for 8 weeks too, even longer, because you want to pick the same stuff and really work it to like get good at the form, work on progressive resistance, get stronger on that. So good deadlift varieties, especially for guys who are getting into strength training over 40, is something like a trap bar deadlift, that hex bar where you stand inside of it, really back friendly. Maybe you are doing a barbell deadlift, or maybe you're doing a back squat of some sort. And like, I think it's important to get good at the form of those things, because this is the fundamental motion that you're going to need to be strong at when you're 80 years old. It is like bending down with a strong back and picking something up, being able to come down with a braced core and like sit back into a chair. Like this is the foundational body movement that we're just doing under load. And specifically, maybe for you, just to be fun on this, like, let's say we're looking at pushing strength. This is the heavy day. Maybe you do 5x5 or something like that on that first lower body motion, or 4 sets of 6 to 8, something like that. But I would go heavy on that. And it's kind of fun to start off with a heavy motion like that. Now, let's say it was that motion for you was barbell squats 5x5 or 4x6 to 8, something like that is fine. The second motion, we're going to do some kind of hip hinging motion, like a deadlift. We'll probably do a lighter variety because you just did some barbell back squats fairly heavy. You want to be nice on your low back. So maybe it's a glute ham raise, maybe it's a stiff deadlift of some sort. And I think you're going to do a light, less volume and higher reps. Maybe that's 3 sets of 8 to 10, just kind of building a program, but you have a squat motion, a hip hinge motion. Then you're going to go to either a pressing or pulling motion. You're calling what you'd like to do next, but I would say we need to be strong at pushing things away from our body and pulling them towards our body. That is what the chest and the back effectively do. They do this in many different planes. Right. So I love the dumbbell bench press for guys over 40. It's like many of us have some shoulder stuff. We played sports, baseball, whatever. Like, it's really free motion. You can really help. You can create a lot of tension. It's so good. So a dumbbell bench press, a little pro tip is like, if you elevate the bench a little bit to put it on a slight decline, so you put like maybe 1 or 2 45-pound plates underneath the end of that bench, so you're in a very slight decline, still feels like it's a flat, but it actually opens up that shoulder girdle a lot more and feels phenomenal. So I would do that. And I think when you're lifting now, it's more important to understand that your muscles don't know how much weight you're holding. Like they don't know you're holding a 50-pound dumbbell. Your muscles know how much tension is generated through the motion. Right. So this is why form is really important as we get older, because we can create a really great stimulus with the lightest weight possible while still getting stronger. So like we've seen guys do sloppy bench presses, and we know what like a strict, really good bench press is, where it's lowered and slow and controlled. You're maintaining tension. You're squeezing really hard through your hands all the way through the motion. You're exploding up and contracting the chest hard. Like rep quality is everything. Like you could go through the same workout with a lot of intentionality and focus on every rep and get a phenomenally better workout benefit than if you just did the same kind of like sloppy reps all the way through, because your muscles know tension, not weight. So let's say,
generally speaking, are you a fan of a slow decline and then I'll call it explosive, even though it might not look that way, but more intense press?
I'm a fan of a controlled eccentric, a controlled lowering. So let's use the bench press, for example. The dumbbells are coming down. It could take anywhere from probably 2 seconds to 2 more if you really want to go really slow. I think really slow is good when you're doing kind of like finishing style motions, like later in your workout, and you really want to prioritize great time under tension. Then you could do a really slow eccentric. You could pause at the bottom with tension.
Right.
That removes the stretch reflex from the muscle and it makes it work harder with the intention then to explode out of the hole, you know? So, but on the heavier sets, like you're not always like going down super, super, super slow, but yes, control these eccentric, explosive, concentric. The explosive motion like does stimulate the fibers, the fast twitch muscle fibers that have the greatest propensity to grow. Those fibers respond to obviously full amount of weight, as well as how fast the contraction happens. So that's good to intend to explode. But obviously you're like trying to explode, but the weight's like you're grinding out that last rep, right? Okay. This is, I want to say too, taking your sets to near failure is very important. Like we know this from the research, like the muscle fibers, as you get deeper into a set and you're getting very close to failure, 1 rep shy of failure, maybe to absolute failure on your last set, like that is where you get the greatest stimulation and the deepest stimulation of the muscle fibers. So that's just facts. So I think the cool thing about full body training is you could do, let's say you had that, the 3 to 4 sets of that dumbbell bench press. Like maybe you have 1 to 2 reps in the tank on the first 2 sets. And then the last one, it's like, you're pretty much just there. That's effective volume. You just got 3 sets. You took your chest to failure and you're getting some stimulation. You're going to be carrying around a little bit of a pump. And the cool thing after training is the muscles that are directly worked, they become sponges for nutrients. Like they soak up more nutrients preferentially. You train that 3 times per week, you're constantly giving this muscle an ability to like take up more nutrients. You get positive nutrient partitioning effects. So that's why this like high, like the punchline that I probably should have said in the beginning is I believe for guys over 40 that training with higher frequency and lower volume every single workout is a good play. So the full body thing, right? So you did a pressing motion, you might do a rowing motion, something that feels good for you. I recommend 2-arm, bent over dumbbell rows, bent over barbell rows, inverted rows on some kind of TRX, but something that you can load in a way that you can progressively have resistance. I think all guys should be working on their pull-ups and their chin-ups. I think it's awesome. It's badass. So good for your health and longevity. Hanging from a bar is good for your spine as well. And your ability to press and pull overhead are very important. So you're going to have some kind of vertical pulling motion. It could be on a lat pull down until you get stronger or lighter, but it's a good thing to train. And then you want obviously to have some vertical pressing in the form of overhead pressing. And then you can finish with arms if you want. So in total, you can do a workout like that in around 45 to 60 minutes. It's important to do warm-up sets before your first motions. And if you have particular issues with your body, spend 5 minutes doing some light cardio, rowing, elliptical, jumping rope, and do some foam rolling on the specific areas that you know you have problems with. And most guys have some kind of area that's a little sketchy, shoulders, knees, low back. Like you need to prioritize that. It needs to become as important in your mind as your training itself to just give that area a little extra love. You spend 5 minutes, like if you have a shoulder issue, working on external rotation, jumping some ropes for some revolutions, you lubricate that joint, you get blood flow going, you connect your nervous system to that area where you have good muscular control. Now you're ready to train. So let's say you did train 3 days per week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On the days that you're not training, you're trying to walk, get outside. Maybe you are doing some light cardio. The cool thing about using things like sauna and cold tub is like, they're basically cardio without you doing like cardio. They like have a cardiovascular benefit and they actually mimic some of the cellular signals of exercise. So you do that every single day. You're kind of just like hacking the system, I guess. And then what I like to do to make nutrition simple is I like to have guys set up like their baseline meal plan. Like they know when they eat and they have go-to meals. And then on the training days, we bump those calories by about 500. So have a specific post-workout training shake, meal, something that works for you that gives you that calorie boost. So on the training days, you're kind of calorie cycling. You get this extra anabolic pulse. It's not like super deviant from your other plan the other days. You don't need to think about it too much. It's just like, okay, I have my same standardized breakfast. I trained, I do the 500 calorie post-workout shake. That should be enough to shift you into that anabolic calorie surplus. And then you focus on sleep, hydration. And on the off days, if you do light cardio or foam rolling or stretching, great. I think for many guys who want to build muscle, the idea of only being in the gym 3 days per week, unless they're a very busy dad, could be like a little counterintuitive. Like, wouldn't you want to do more? It's just not how the body works necessarily. Like, more is not always better. And once you follow a particular training plan for some period of time, mixing it up is an important variable. So like after a 3 day per week full body, maybe you do start training 4 days a week on an upper body, lower body split, or more specialized body part split. But for you, I love that full body 3 days per week. And I will actually send you the template of our program, Old School Muscle, just so you can use that, because it's all like done out and it's really clear.
That's cool. Are you a fan of the electronic muscle stimulation?
Yeah. I have the world's best one. And it's like, I'm not trying to flex, but I'm a huge fan. I just didn't want to necessarily get into this. And believe it or not, the world's best electronic muscle stimulation machine, they come from Austin, Texas. The company is called NewFit.
NewFit. Yeah, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Okay. So I have one in my garage. We use it. It is incredibly effective for muscle building and rehab. Like if you can get your hands on one, I would do it. You could effectively replace any of those workouts with NewFit training sessions. Because what the NewFit is, for those who are not familiar, it's like a big box looking device that has the electrode pads, it has the leads coming out, and you put them on your body. And it just uses like DC current to cause your muscle to contract. And then you lengthen against the contraction. So it's creating tension that you're doing tearing against, and you're getting a lot of blood flow, constant tension, and you're not getting joint stress. So it's something that I think more athletes are going to use. But I also think there's something just super cool about taking your shirt off in your garage and like grabbing a barbell and like doing stuff like that. Like, I love that as well.
Mm-hmm. Those are pretty expensive machines for anybody who's going to look at them. They're 25 grand or something like that.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah. My concern with it was over tearing, like putting too much stress on the muscle. And the only reason I became aware of it was I did some blood work immediately after having done one of these workouts
on the NewFit.
Yeah. And the doctor was like, what was it? My creatine kinase.
It's a mark of muscle damage, is probably off the charts.
Right. And they were concerned that, and I say that knowing there's probably 100 ways to look at this. So
it gives you an absolutely extreme workout.
Yeah.
So the dose would make the poison or the medicine in that case.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a fan. That's good.
Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about how you look at this as a dad right now, as it relates to your family. You can kind of take this any way that you want, but I want to bring this topic in because men in our community specifically, not only do they want to be strong, but the question is, how do I think about health when it comes to my kids?
Yeah. Well,
how would you answer that?
First off, it's like you got to have your oxygen mask on first, that kind of airplane analogy, which means you got to have your own routine dialed in.
Yeah.
If there's like deficits there, then this could be an opportunity to like create a culture and environment in your family of greater health. And quite frankly, the thing you're going to share most with your kids is not your exercise routine, although you probably play as part of that, but it's your food. It's the food that the family eats. Like, that's the shared variable here. So that's the area to clean up, and your kids will probably get the greatest benefit of eating healthier food. So how can the family improve the nutrition? How can you improve your nutrition? Do you guys have shared go-to meals? Like, does the family have a go-to healthy breakfast that work for the kids, work for you? Like, how do you guys do for dinner? What are lunches like? What are the snacks? Can you make healthier substitutions? So like the nutrition front, I believe is the connection point between most dads and most kids on the health front, as well as like sleep, circadian rhythm, and screen time are probably another variable that's pretty important. The way I look at it is, today's kids are like in a pretty tough spot. Like, it's become so culturally normalized to have like really crap foods, and the food today is actually more toxic than ever, unfortunately. Like, whether this is pesticides sprayed on foods, contamination with all different kinds of things, how ubiquitous sugar is, and they're modeling their friends and they're modeling their parents. And this is another sad thing, but like the metabolic changes that happen with kids, if they are overweight or having too much sugar, like a lot of those have lifelong impacts. Like, you actually grow the number of fat cells, these containers for lipids and calories, when you're young. I think you do it before puberty. And like, if you get more fat when you're young, like you carry more ability to be heavy later on in life. Let alone the behavioral component of kids struggling with mental health and all this kind of stuff. It is all about inputs and environment. So when you're looking at kids' health, it's like you're looking in the bucket of how are they sleep and restoring? which I think technology and sugar are probably the two things that have the greatest impact on that bucket. Like, what kinds of foods are they eating? Are they supporting this whole biochemical symphony that happens that enables them to be the best versions of themselves? Like, if they're not eating the right kinds of foods, like, they're just not living up to their full potential. And it sounds like so tough because we throw convenient stuff at our kids because we're busy and we just want to have something that totally works. But like, the impact of that is actually far greater than we may realize. And it's also another friction point. If your kids are used to eating a certain kind of way and you're to implement changes, like, there is growth there, and there's going to be some friction, and there's going to need to be some changes, and you need to find ways that it works with your whole entire family ecosystem. So I think of his nutrition as like the whole family band is learning to play together. You need to come up with your go-to songs, like the stuff that you guys can execute that everyone seems to love. At the very least, like having like a healthy dinner that has the vegetables in it with the protein. Like, a framework that we teach for dinner that tends to work for families is building what we call perfect plates. So if you have like a blank plate of food, you fill half the plate with some kind of veggie. This could be any kind of veggie. Could be salad mix, asparagus, steamed broccoli, sauteed vegetables, peppers, like whatever. So some kind of veggie that has fiber, because we know the benefits of fiber for the gut microbiome. We know how important the gut microbiome is for kids and adults, immune system, all that stuff. So half the plate is veggies. A quarter is some kind of protein that you love. I'll assume most guys here are not vegetarians, so I won't go vegetarian first, but on an omnivorous thing, I think it's important when you're looking at protein to get the highest quality protein that you can get. Like, what you ate matters. Like, there is a phenomenal difference between farm salmon and wild salmon, both in terms of nutrients and toxicants. So if you are to spend up on something, spend up on the highest quality protein, which often is labeled with organic, wild caught, pasture raised, et cetera. Get higher quality protein on that front. And then the final quarter of your plate is filled with some kind of healthy carb that your family loves. And so this could be sweet potatoes, rice, squash, corn, like whatever you guys do. But like, that framework, you could build so many different things. We could have taco night. We could have grass-fed ground beef, sauteed peppers with some quinoa or something like that. We could do the fish night. We could have the wild salmon with asparagus drizzled in lemon, a side of sweet potato. You could even do simple breakfast for dinner kind of scenario where you get those high quality pasture raised eggs with those really good yolks. That's a side point is like eggs, very misunderstood food. I would recommend people eat more of them. I would recommend people and kids eat more of them. They're rich in this certain kind of nutrient called choline, which is the backbone of acetylcholine, our brain's main neurotransmitter. Kids get smarter when they have higher intakes of choline and omega-3 fatty acids. So if you're eating sardines, cold water fatty fish a few times per week for the omega-3s, great. Maybe hemp seeds or maybe even a plant-based source, fine. Or doing fish oil or cod liver oil. There's a lot of wisdom in our past generations where everyone's like, get your cod liver oil. You get all the vitamin A, D, E, K, omega-3s. Like, omega-3s for kids, super important. And then vitamin D. If your kids aren't getting outside or you're getting their vitamin D levels checked, that is like low-hanging fruit. Like, check their vitamin D status. Vitamin D, it's like, we think of it just as a vitamin, which is like, we know they're good for us. Most of us don't know exactly what they do, but it's far more than that. It is like is a gene regulator, transcription factor. For men, it has massive impacts on testosterone, mental health, massive. So naturally, we get it from the sunshine. Being connected and the rhythms are huge, but otherwise, maybe some supplementation for your kids with omega-3s and D would be like a really good start. And I think anytime that you can involve family play in a way that's like active outside, like that's the trifecta, like basketball out front, taking a walk with your daughter, time in the park, practicing your kids' sport with them outside, like it's a win-win-win for everyone. And when you're not on your regular Monday through Friday schedule, like, do you have a time to get that to be something that you guys do on the weekends? Like, as a regular thing, the family gets outside. There's just so many benefits to that, I believe.
Yeah. I got my kids out working in the yard recently.
Nice.
And it's like, how much do we get paid? I'm like, nothing. This is, you get a roof over your head, I put food in your mouth. Let's go. Let's get in the yard. Time to dig.
Nice.
It's really cool. But once they're outside, if you really do pay attention to their energy, you pay attention to their spirit, you pay attention to their vibe when they're inside, after screens, let's say, in the home, versus outside in the yard connected to nature.
Yep.
They're different kids. It's just
100%.
wonderful to see, man. If you're paying attention, it's obvious. I love where we have arrived. I also want to check in with you on time. How are you doing? We're good
on time. Yep.
Great, man. Because I want to get to I want to get to a couple of things here. So many places I'd love to dig deeper. I'm going to say this not to lead us down the road, although if you have something on the sugar piece that's additive to what we've already said, because we've said some incredible things as it relates to sugar. My 13-year-old got a CGM recently because he saw me wearing one.
That's cool.
We were shocked by that, like what oatmeal does and what rice does to our blood sugar. It was shocking. And what was cool is it didn't eliminate necessarily oatmeal from the family, but it altered how much, right? It was portion control also became part of it. You spoke to that when you think about the plate. I think that's like, I used to cover the bottom of the plate with rice and then put vegetables on top. And now rice becomes just a little side scoop of rice,
exactly,
which I think is so important. And it was really cool to see Tiger, my 13-year-old, monitor and notice, and then have it, a visual impact for him on what he was doing and how it was changing his body and how he felt. And it was really cool to see. And now my 8-year-old wants to do the same thing.
That's so cool.
So we're going to get him a CGM, and so he can track all these things as well.
And now they're making a connection, right, between the foods they eat and that they 100%. Have biochemical impacts. And then if they understand the stability of their blood sugar is their energy and their performance and all that, like, they're going to be so set up. It's crazy cool that you literally have kids on a CGM, and we didn't have CGMs like 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So it's like, wow, what a world we live in. The advantages, I talked about the disadvantages kids have in a toxic, complicated world, but also the advantages with some good parenting. Like, man, your kids are like so far ahead of the game.
No question. In one recent interview, a doctor who I was speaking with, I said, if there was one tool, one metric, if there was one, something that we could pay attention to, what would it be? And his comment was sugar. It was a CGM, and it was sugar as a baseline. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree?
Yeah. I mean, it'd be tough to argue with that. I think it is a very strong point. And I'll speak into it from my perspective, right? Sure. I mean, we're in an interesting state in the nutrition world, and this happens all the time. Nutrition is a lot like religion. Like, people have very entrenched, ensconced beliefs and like see results on many different disparate plans and shout about it. We right now have a lot of people pushing like keto and even the carnivore version of keto, which is just an all meat diet. And then we have other people who have high carb diet, plant-based diets, and do well. We want to have stable blood sugar as much as possible. And we want to bring our metabolism. We want a flexible metabolism. What that means, our metabolism can burn many different types of fuels, proteins, carbs, fats, and we can create some ketone bodies. So our body, when we don't have access to sugar, our brain likes to run on sugar. It's just a nice default mode. We will make ketone bodies from fats in the liver, and that's helpful. We can run on those as well. And so for adults, not necessarily kids, it's a really good thing to practice intermittent fasting, the process of having breaks from eating where you're allowing your body to get into a catabolic state, insulin sensitivity improves, growth hormone improves. And when you do that regularly, you can have carb-containing foods and have phenomenal glucose regulation. Like, there is no problem eating berries. In fact, they might be some of the healthiest foods on the planet for many different reasons. And certain kinds of fruits, like, yes, they have sugar, but that sugar is mixed up in the matrix of fiber, vitamins, minerals, et cetera. And everybody, based on their own gut microbiome, has a different impact on certain foods. So what I'll say on this is, like, processed sugars should only like candy or like sodas is like a never, or like once or twice a year. Like, Sour Patch Kids at a movie just because like my buddy wants to get them. Like, I don't know, maybe, but like, just get that stuff out of your life. Sugar that finds you through natural sources, the sugar that might be in carrots or certain kinds of fruits, fine. I think kids should eat more fruit. Honestly, like, fruit is like, I'm coming to bat for fruit right now, because I think it's getting thrown out with the bathwater because people are so concerned about any kind of carbohydrate containing food, throwing insulin off, and now you're not burning fat. Like, it's just not the case when you have healthy glucose and insulin signaling, which requires you knowing that you're eating foods that keeps your blood sugar regulated on a regular basis, your strength training, which again makes your muscles like sponges for carbohydrates as well, and you practice something like intermittent fasting. So sugar is bad. It's super addictive. It lights up the same areas that cocaine does in the brain, and then it makes us tired, and then we need another hit of that stuff. And it's not just the sugar itself. Sugar typically in today's age comes in the package of a lot of other bullshit that you just don't want in your body.
whether it's preservatives, chemicals, different kinds of things. Like it's just like doesn't come well. But natural sugar in my book is fine. In fact, for kids, it is a good idea to have fruit, particularly after exercise or maybe first thing in the morning is very good. And what I've kind of gone to is moving away from starchier carbohydrates. Like I don't eat as much rice, small portion once in a while. I do eat sweet potatoes, carb containing food. I typically will have those for dinner when I have them as a side. I like quinoa with like black bean, chili kind of stuff. I think that's like very good. Yeah. So like sugar, bad. Finding ways to have a family that can eat carbohydrates without like freaking out about it and having regulated blood glucose is good.
I'm laughing right now because when I first put on the monitor and I saw what oatmeal did, you know, and then I come out in the kitchen and I'm all intense and I'm like, kids are eating too much oatmeal. And my wife's like, she wasn't quite at the speed that I was, you know, we ought to do a huge fight about oatmeal. It was really great.
For sure.
But it's interesting when one family member gets all passionate about it and has all this information and listen to the podcast and, you know, and then they come and they try to bash the other partner in submission. It doesn't work, guys. It was not a good strategy on my part. So
quick hack on the blood sugar front is we don't eat foods in isolation. We actually have combo meals, and like the combination of proteins, carbs, and fats changes how quickly blood glucose rises. I know you've certainly seen this, but like adding healthy fats to your meal will slow down the blood sugar response. It kind of like slows gastric emptying. You get like a more time release thing. So, I mean, you could try to test this. There's a difference between just eating straight oatmeal and it's eating oatmeal with some cinnamon, with some like nut butter or seeds or something like this. That would like slow it down. So we want stable blood glucose. And we know like the health risks of having too much sugar, a sticky substance floating around the blood. It binds to hemoglobin. This is what we measure diabetes and prediabetes with, this hemoglobin A1C. How much of your hemoglobin is bound to sugar, sticky stuff. And then sugar is also depressive for the immune system. It shuts off the immune system's ability to work, and it can be inflammatory in many cases. Well, it kind of is. So yeah, use fats to slow down. Healthy fats are your friend. Add more of those.
Yes. Let's wrap with your business because, you know, again, Front Row Dads is family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. We love business. We love when men make a great income and they can provide for their families and they can do good things in the world. We love businesses that add value to the world. And we love when men have a mission. So we're not anti-business, right? I want to be clear about that. We want to celebrate it. We just don't want it to be the addiction that pulls men away from their families. We don't want it to be the excuse of like, oh, I'm going to go show my kids how to work hard because parenting is hard. So they just hide behind the excuse of, I'm going to go show my kids how to work hard. I'm doing good for the world. But the reality is that maybe marriage is a little sticky. Raising kids can be tough. And so they hide behind their business. I want to talk about how you incredible business and how you think about that as it relates to your marriage and also being a father. And perhaps you can just weave in maybe what you've seen within your community of other people who've successfully done this. So if you can, and it's a tall order, I get, but you feel free to tell us a story about how you built your business or whatever you want to about that. Because I want men to know what you built, how you built it, and through the lens of prioritizing family. So struggles, successes, wherever you want to take it, man, the ball's in your court.
I was fortunate in some sense to be working on my business before I had kids. I was in medical school, and in addition to doing medical school, like I started up some health blogs, and I was writing articles, particularly because I feel like, funny, this all goes back to Qasim. Okay. So Qasim lives in Scottsdale, Arizona. Yeah. I mean, Qasim's my origin story. Don't make sure he doesn't listen to this clip, but okay. So we're in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he was doing some digital marketing for my stepdad, Jim, who owns a large construction company. And he was kind of helping me out. I was a young guy, and he was really good at SEO. So he's like, hey, listen, no one's written articles on like weight loss for men over 40, over 50. Like these are wide open. Like you should write some articles. And he said it kind of in passing, but I really took it to heart. And so like I wrote these web pages like 10 years ago, like weight loss for men over 40. It was like one of the first like really good articles. And then that thing started like ranking in Google. It didn't, not overnight, but like over the course of like years, it just sat there, and then it got traction. It was good and got traffic. So now I have a website now that has like a lot of people coming to it and reading articles and stuff. And then
I knew I wanted to build like an online fitness program and community with nutrition guidance, exercise, supplements, all this. Like the seed of the vision was there, but it comes in like the first product was like a $10 meal plan or something like that online, which brought me into digital marketing. You know, you got to learn how to like build a sales page. You got to learn WordPress. And like, I was the designer, the developer, if you will, like the copywriter, you're everything. And like, I grew my business by learning digital marketing, and it was something I was so passionate about and like still am now, but as like a CEO now with like a lot of traction success, it's like not my day to day, but man, learning how to design compelling stuff on a website format to communicate with people and like get them to take action was like, is an art, it's a science. And like, I got good at it over time, but it literally probably took me about 5 years to like really make any money online. And then I used all that money that I did make to hire my first guy, who's now my COO, Stuart. And he was a blog writer to replace me. And then we built teams out. And now we have multi-7-figure company with about 15 people working on our team. We have online health and fitness programs for dads over 40. We have a supplement line. We have live events. And so it's the Fit Father Project. It's like this amazing thing. And it's one of the greatest things I've done in my life. And I've learned so much through the vehicle of business. In the early days, it just took like 8-hour computer days consistently, constantly, like just working on, like I jacked up my posture from like sitting and working on a computer, like tremendously. And even as a healthy guy, like I'm still unwinding the effects of that, which is like just interesting to think, but like the power of the computer, I really just rocked on that thing. And then customer feedback, like you build a product and like our product is phenomenal now, like world-class, best online, but like there's been like 10 different iterations. It's like the pyramids, like we built on, you know, all the past feedback and learnings. And I've matured in the process. Like, I feel like in a sense, it was a digital entrepreneur with that kind of business. Your business in some sense is a reflection of you, of what you think, of what you know, of your capacities for leadership. So it's cool because as I scale up, like the business scales up, and my sense right now is the ceiling that we're at is largely dictated by like the way I think about things. And that's so cool because like to make changes, it's like it starts somewhat internally and then it gets expressed through different systems, processes, strategies. And then like now it's about leadership. I'm in the stage now where it's about like growing people and helping like delegate better and all this. It's amazing. I think as it relates to my wife, like I think she was very attracted to me because, you know, I was a man on a mission and like I had such fire and power behind what I was doing in a large mission. And the cool thing too is running your own business. If you can get traction and keep it successful and keep it healthy, it's like one of the greatest paths of financial freedom that like we know of. So you can, if you have the ability to create value in the marketplace, like real value, and people care about and then validate that by like participating with business, like joining your mastermind and renewing for years, like this kind of thing, like that's like, it's spiritual to me. It's goodness. We're creating value that is like mutual. And honestly, we're bringing people together. I think that's something that you and I share is like at the heart of our digital online communities that are helping people teach them how to stuff in a certain sense. But mostly it's about like bringing us together in fellowship of like great people. Now, one of my favorite things is just to witness the energy that the community has on its own outside of me. Like it is a thing. I feel like it's kind of like I grew this thing and now it has its own energy and I'm like kind of there to like manage it a little bit, like guide it, but it's guiding itself in a sense. And I think of our business as like a living organism and it has different kinds of organelles to it and it's growing. It has life energy to it. And we want to continue to like be like the go-to resource for dads over 40 who want to get healthy and stay healthy and want to be integrated into community. Like that's what we're all about. So we have big plans. Right now in our current like economic environment, like my main thing as a business owner is like, how do we create like stability and lasting power? Because fortunately and unfortunately, the issue of unhealthy dads is not going away anytime soon. So like my goal is just to be around for 10 more years. Because if we're just in the pocket, we're here for 10 more years, that means we've helped millions more people. So it's about like stability at this juncture. Although we've had phenomenal growth though. I mean, like, like there's a little business accolades, right? You get the YouTube plaque on your wall. You put yourself on the Inc. 5000 list. We were like 500 one year, and like it's cool stuff. And also what I found too is like a lot of my mentors, the people I looked up to, are now some of my friends. Like that's like a cool thing that happens. I guess not always, but it did for me. Like these people that I was learning so much digital marketing from, and then like at a certain point, you're like at dinner with them. It's like whoa. Like, that's cool. So it's now become a vehicle of service for me. I get to express my understanding of God's love and goodness in the vehicle of like blessing people in this business. And that means like great business practices, honest pricing, excellent delivery, genuine care for our customers. That's our culture that we have with our team members. And I feel like I'm doing two things: growing a company externally that has good products and services, but also I love like my team, like the fact that we get to like be together. Our work relationships are so meaningful, and we work all over. We're completely virtual. Like, everyone's like, there's some people in Arizona, but everyone's like all over the place. And just the time on Slack, the connections, it's like the ability to create. I feel privileged that I have created a sandbox where I can create more sandboxes and stuff. And that's very freeing for me.
Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, everybody. This has been an awesome show, and I'm super grateful for this conversation. Thanks for making time. Thanks for building what you have and giving into the world the way that you have. I'm really impressed, man. I'm always a little skeptical, right? Aren't we supposed to be?
Yeah.
We get introduced to people, and we meet people, we're learning about people. Like, I always go in with maybe a little bit of like, let's see how real, how deep, how vast is this soul, that I'm experiencing. And man, there was a lot of richness to this conversation. I feel like it's important for me to reflect back to you right now that there's a lot of intelligence, there's a lot of work that you've done and research, and there's infinite wisdom there from the book smarts piece, but there's also this like heart and soul that you bring to this, which is why I now know further. I know more intimately why Qasim pointed me to you, which he's never pointed me to somebody that I haven't felt that way about. So I was imagining that was going to be the case, but now I get it. Like, I feel that from you, and I can understand why people are drawn to you and your project, and why you have been able to build this community. And probably one of the happiest things that I heard you say, for me, what made me happy was your team. When you talk about your team, right? And you're like, I love working with this team. Last night I was at a dinner with a group of men. It was just 8 of us, and we were sitting around. The idea was, what's alive within you now, right? That's the kind of the prompt question, and everybody's going around, what's alive for you? Mine was that I feel supported. I feel supported right now in a way that I never have. I'm 47 years old. I've got a 13-year-old and 8-year-old. I feel so great right now in my life. And part of it is because of guys like you. I feel so supported after this conversation. I feel like many of our members in our community will feel the same way. Like, you're showing up, man, for the world in a way where all these guys will not feel so isolated. Different than solitude, right? Different than being able to have some solitude, but to feel like you are there with them on this journey. Props to you, brother. That's it. I'm going to sign off with that and say thank you for being here. Guys, we'll link to all of all the goodies if you want to go connect with Anthony and his team. We'll point you there. We'll make it easy. So everything will be at frontrowdads.com. But check out Fit Father Project, guys. Look at what he's got going on. I was looking at those before and after pictures, and I'm like, this has got to make Anthony so pumped to see these people's transformations, just adding years to their life and to their health and the quality of their family experience. That's really cool, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, John.